Koudelka is a turn-based Gothic horror RPG where you play as the eponymous Koudelka as she and her companions uncover the dark past of a cursed monastery. Atmosphere. The opening cutscene sets a mood instantly with Koudelka on a horse on a misty hillside with some hauntingly beautiful singing backing it up. However, whilst exploring the monastery, there's an eerie lack of music and the only ambient sound is a low rumble. The environments are all pre-rendered backdrops. Some of them are very ornate, but they all feel cold and empty, disused for many years. It's similar to Resident Evil, with some parts of the mansion looking visually comparable to environments seen in that game, but instead of the B-movie charm, there's a more genuine eeriness in exploring the monastery. They've put in a lot more detail in this, and along with some great lighting, it's very moody. On the darker side, there are bodies piled up in certain rooms, bones and remains are left abandoned in the hallways, and the chunky PlayStation graphics makes them look really creepy. That's one Harry Mason. Scares. There's not really anything scary, but the enemy designs are all weird and creepy, and the PlayStation 1 graphics again make their appearance even weirder. These are some of my favourite creepy enemies in any game ever. The animation on them as well makes some of their movements unnatural looking. The spells enemies cast have weird sound effects, and it never states what a move is called, so you don't really know what it's going to do to you, which can be kind of worrying. The bosses are pretty unsettling, with some of them resembling Silent Hill enemies, and they are sometimes horrifyingly powerful, ripping your team to bits in no time at all. But I wouldn't say it's scary. The combat isn't frightening, and sometimes it's a bit repetitive, so it never really shocks the player. That's still one Harry Mason. Sound design. The battle music is oddly fitting for the time the game is set in, as is the boss music. There's some beautiful, grandiose string sections that swell during the cutscenes, and equally there's some haunting pieces that play over them too. It creates some very emotional scenes. For a PlayStation 1 game, the voice acting and character animations are pretty amazing. There's a thick reverb that makes every footstep reverberate and really gives you a strong sense of the environment you're in. I love the sound of all the magic powers being used, and a lot of it sounds really haunting. That's two Harry Masons. Gore. There's only one or two parts of the game where blood is seen, and it's quite jarring, turning the tone quickly. It comes out of nowhere and you don't expect it. Following it is one of the most brutal cutscenes in the game too. It's very impactful, and I'm glad it wasn't overused, as it so easily could have been. That's three Harry Masons. Story. In 1898, Koudelka is psychically drawn to the Metten mansion and finds it overrun with monsters. Upon meeting the caretakers who tried to poison her and her friend Edward, they realise they must stay and discover more about the place. As the story progresses, there's a lot of disturbing realizations, and in classic Gothic horror style, a lot of tragedy and loss, which makes for some of the more emotive scenes. There's a load of interesting notes and letters laying around that are really kind of sad to read. The story starts off slow, but really gets interesting around the second disc of the game, and by the end of it, it was totally enthralling, making the final score 4 out of 5 Harry Masons. Whilst I wasn't convinced turn-based combat could allow a game to be frightening, I was mostly proven wrong. It's a creepy, unique game with some really interesting storytelling. Again, I'd like to remind you this whole thing is down to my opinion in horror games. If you don't share this opinion, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that whilst I was creeped out by some of the monsters, I did not scream like a banshee or run away from the computer, and I advise you don't either. There'll be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching. Always go check out Bumps in the middle of the night. Peace.